Alright, so the first thing we want to do for our honey cakes is basically make a very simple caramel. And we're going to do that with the honey, butter, lemon juice, and vanilla. So we're going to come over here to our hot pan, just warm it up on medium heat. We're going to add the butter. We're going to let the butter start to melt. We don't want the butter to turn brown. So you have to adjust your heat accordingly. Once your butter is melted, you'll want to add your cannabis infused honey. And basically at this stage, you want your honey and butter to melt together. Once that happens, we'll add our lemon juice. So we can kind of see the mixture has started to produce a caramel. So just want to give it a stir, make sure it's completely emulsified. Everything is melted. And then we're going to add the lemon juice. And then we're also going to add the vanilla. We're going to return that to the heat, to the stove. You want to let that cook for about 3 minutes to become nice and caramelized. After 3 minutes, we'll add our diced apples, 380 grams. Just want to give your caramel mixture an occasional stir just to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. Alright, at this stage we're going to add the apples, and then we're going to cook for an additional 3 minutes. While the apples are cooking, we're going to soak our raisins in the rum. So here we have the rum, raisins, and the Demerara sugar for our next step in making the cakes. Here we have a mixing bowl. Just going to add the rum, the raisins, and then about half of the sugar. Just going to give it a mix and just let it hang out. The raisins will slowly absorb some of that sweet rum mixture. So. While that's soaking, we're going to return to our apple mixture. Kind of give it a stir. At this stage, we're going to add our raisins, our candied ginger, orange supremes, pomelo supremes, blanched almonds, and then half of our grapefruit juice and half of our orange juice. So you can just dump these in any particular order. You don't have to measure out the exactly half of the grapefruit or exactly the orange. You can just eyeball it. Then we'll combine these for later. increase the heat just to about medium high, just so that we can reduce some of that liquid mixture. At this stage, we're going to add the vanilla extracts, allspice, and cinnamon. At the very end, we'll finish with the mixture of grapefruit and orange juice, and then we'll also finish with a little bit of mint. And we want to come back over to the stove. Give everything a stir to make sure it's evenly distributed throughout your pan. And then we're just going to let that simmer on its own, and then we'll come back to that later. At this stage, we're going to start making our actual cake batter. So what we're going to do is start out with some butter at room temperature, so nice soft. We're going to add this to the mixer. Okay. We're also going to add our remaining Damara sugar. We're going to add our vanilla. This is about 2 pods. Then we're also going to add our eggs. This is 2 whole eggs and 2 yolks. We're going to use the paddle attachment. Then we're going to turn it up to about a 3. About a minute. At this stage, your butter and your egg mixture should be pretty well incorporated together. So we're going to add the almond flour. We're going to mix again for about 30-45 seconds. At this point, it should be pretty nice and creamy. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our heavy cream. We're going to add our skim milk. And then we'll add our rum-soaked raisins that we made earlier. So we're going to start by adding the milk and cream mixture first. Adjust the speed so it doesn't splatter outside of the bowl. Let it mix for a few seconds so that it becomes nice and incorporated. Right, at this point I'm going to stop the mixer, I'm going to remove the bowl, scrape down the sides, and then add my raisin mixture. Just want to make sure any remaining pieces of butter, you can just mix right into the dough so it's nice and incorporated. Okay, at this point, we're going to add our rum and raisin mixture. It's okay if your sugar hasn't completely dissolved. We can just scrape that right into the bowl. All right, we're going to return this back to the mixture, or back to the mixer. Mix for about 30 or 45 seconds. Nice and incorporated. Alright, at this point we're going to stop the mixer again. We're going to add all of our flour. And then we'll mix again. At this point we want to mix for about 1 minute to 2 minutes just to make sure your flour mixture is nice and incorporated into the rum and almond flour. Stop your mixer periodically and scrape down the sides. Alright, I'm going to mix one more time. About ready. So we're going to remove this from the mixer. I'm going to take this out. And as you can see, it's nice, creamy. All the ingredients are very homogeneous or mixed together. And that's it. We're going to let this rest just for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll put it into a piping bag. Alright, so at this stage, we're going to finish our apples and fruit mixture for our cakes. And then we're also going to fill our cake molds. As you can see here, I've just transferred our cake batter to a piping bag, which will be provided one in your kit. And then, as you'll see, our fruits have reduced down to a nice sort of chutney. At this point, we are going to add a little bit of your reserved grapefruit and orange juice, just to moisten it up. And then we're also going to add the mint. I prefer to add the mint at the latter stage so that it doesn't turn brown, so that it maintains this nice vibrant green both aroma and texture. Right. So you just simply mix that in. So your chutney will have a nice vibrant flavor and aroma. So that's going to be there. Let me move this stuff out of the way. Alright, here I have a flexi molds that I've lubricated with a little non-stick cooking spray. Any non-stick cooking spray will work for this application. Also, any mold will work. If you prefer to use a pipe, a muffin tin, or some other mold, you just want to be careful of the size. My preference is I wouldn't want to go larger than that because you have a lot of butter in the cake mixture that's held together with almond flour. So it'll just have a very moist texture on the inside. Alright, so basically we're going to cut the end of this, we're going to fill our molds, and we'll get these in the oven. You want to fill your molds probably 2/3 of the way full. Once we add the chutney mixture to it, it will fill the rest of the way. If you find that raisins get stuck in the tip, you can just make it a little larger. Alright, we have a little reserve, but that's fine. We can either make more cakes or reserve it for a later date. Alright. So at this point, we'll want to let the cakes settle so that there will be no air pockets or bubbles in there. can do that one of the two ways. You can just let it hang out on the counter, or I like to give it a little tap, and that way they'll settle and then they'll bake nice and even. All right, for the chutney, we're basically going to put that in there with a teaspoon. I like to use a teaspoon measurement because it's very consistent, but also it's easy to handle the chutney. Okay, so I'm going to select my teaspoon measurement. It doesn't have to be perfectly level, a little bit more, a little bit less. Both are fine. Okay, and what's great about this mixture is it goes great into cakes, but if you were to put that on your morning toast or a morning bagel or any other application where a savory fruit chutney would work, very delicious. So we can actually reserve this for a later date and use that in other applications. Okay, so at this stage, I'm just going to poke down the chutney mixture just a little bit into the cake batter so that it bakes more evenly. It's okay if it's exposed a little bit on top. We just don't want it to all be sticking out, otherwise it'll burn because it contains a lot of sugar. All right, that's great. Okay, at this point, we're going to put it in the oven. Here we have a very fancy rationale. At home, I realize that you do not have a computerized oven. So I would actually increase your baking temperature to 350 degrees. Here I'm going to use 338 degrees because this is a little bit more accurately calibrated, and it also uses a fan application. So bear with me as I set the temperature. Basically, we're going to want to bake these anywhere between 30 and 35 minutes, depending on your oven. If you're baking these at home, you'll want to preheat your oven. Fortunately here, this preheats very quickly, so I don't need to do that part of the process. Just place it on a center rack, set your timer, and that's it for your cakes. So our cakes have completed the cooking process. I baked these for 30 minutes at 338 degrees. So I'm going to remove them from the oven. At this stage, basically what we're looking for is a deep golden color and a nice caramelization of the fruits. Since these are made with almond flour and a copious amount of butter, we're actually going to let them set or cool at room temperature just in the molds.